Sports Fix listeners, you've heard me talking about it. Millionaires being made all season long at DraftKings.com, America's favorite one-week fantasy football site. I've been playing there too. It's now J-Rock's favorite one-week fantasy football site. What's one-week fantasy football? That means no season-long commitments. Play whenever you want. Have a player who's hurt? That's no problem at all because you change everything week to week. Injuries don't derail your chance at victory. It's a new season every week. You're never stuck with the same players. You can pick your team in just minutes and be on your way to winning huge cash. This season, one listener turned $10 into $5,000. Another turned $2 into $10,000. And a new millionaire has been crowned nearly every week this season at DraftKings.com. You could be next. Imagine winning $1 million in one day. $1 million just for playing fantasy football at DraftKings.com. Head to DraftKings.com now and use promo code Spreaker to play for free in the $10 million Fantasy Football World Championships. DraftKings.com. Bigger events, bigger winnings, bigger millionaires. Enter Spreaker now at DraftKings.com.
The Sports Fix is on iHeartRadio. Download the free iHeart app today. Subscribe to the show and get your fix. Have you gotten your copy of Cleveland's Finest yet? Highlighting the best moments, players, and media members in Cleveland sports history? In-depth personal interviews with some of the top names in Cleveland sports fill the pages of this incredible book. Cleveland's Finest by Vince McKee is this year's must-have book for every Cleveland sports fan. Available now at Amazon.com. Get your copy today. Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize. I mean, a really real prize. Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs. There's literally only one place to go. FantasyJocks.com.
Hey everybody, this is Jerry the King Lawler from WWE, and you're listening to the Sports Fix.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix live across the Sports Fix Radio Network. J-Rock, Jerry Myers back with you guys. And sorry for it looked choppy in that first segment, man. I didn't realize, obviously I had to take a few performance enhancers, man. I had to take a few supplements to get on the air today so that I could control enough of this to do the broadcast. And I did not realize how fast my reflexes are normally Monday through Friday when we do this show. Because during the first segment, I'm getting rapid fire comments coming in on Facebook and on Twitter and messages in the inbox. And I'm getting all the different chats in the chat room, like 6 different places. And my reflex time, it's like baseball, man. My hand-eye coordination, the reflex time was a little bit slower. I hit the brake and I'm like, man, wow, I didn't realize how fast I usually am reacting to this stuff because it's all a step slower today. Got no excuses. Got to be accountable. No excuses, guys. The show must go on. Welcome back. J-Rock with you. It's the Sports Fix. Jonathan Knight's on the other side of this line going to join me. We're going to talk about the Browns and Johnny Manziel and a little bit about the Cavs here as well. We've got a ton of things to come. Kendall Lewis later on in the show. Jeff Gorman with the Bengals Scouting Report. Your takes and more. And, of course, we're going to dive more into the ins and outs of the Cavaliers game. But as I said, I do want to touch with JK a pause definitely throughout Cleveland sports fans all over about 90 seconds before halftime last night as it looked really bad. And a few minutes later you go, hey man, is this the Cavs jersey? Because usually a guy with a Cleveland jersey doesn't come right back out after a near catastrophic injury and go, no, I'm good, man. I'm going to play in the second half. We'll talk about that. Jonathan Knight, sports writer extraordinaire on the line. You can keep it going. Facebook.com/thesportsfix. Tweet with us at the Sports Fix. CLE. Email us, thesportsfix@AOL.com. Going to the phones. JK, how you doing this afternoon? Did you get a chance picking up where I left off to see that Cavs game last night and see what I'm talking about?
I was not watching at the time, thankfully, I think. So I sort of missed the drama, the sort of the story arc, the emotional wreckage of having to contemplate what that could have been and what that might have what it might have forecasted. But yeah, I mean, certainly had heard about it very quickly, and you know, it was sort of lost in this is that LeBron was already hurt, so it sort of we started the night sort of on a bad note. And then that happened, and it looks like it's going to be okay. It certainly had a good ending last night, so that's good. But you're right. I think that's our biggest fear. That's been our biggest fear really since July, since LeBron's announcement, and since all these pieces came together was just stay healthy. That's the biggest thing, and we've sort of been walking along, avoiding stepping on the cracks on the sidewalk, trying to get there. So. Yeah, I mean, it was very good that he was able to come back and it wasn't as bad as it first seemed, because if there's anything that can derail this Cavs season and the potential that they've shown here over these past couple of weeks, it's injuries.
No, absolutely, man. I'm watching the game live last night, and Cavs are right there. Actually, they were up a little bit, and it was back and forth there, and then I think I was texting somebody or tweeting or something. I had my eye off, and I look up just as they go down. And then you can just see, like, instantly, I don't know, anybody that was listening heard off microphone, you could hear Kyrie calling for the trainer right away. And he instantly covers his face so that he can talk. And usually when guys do that, it's because they're saying things that they don't want, people to see. And it's, man, everything about that scene looked like the traditional, wow, this is where something really bad happens. And I noticed across my Twitter, I was joking about the people that usually glom onto Kyrie in a bad way. All of a sudden, they were really worried about a guy that they love to say isn't as good as everybody says he is. All of a sudden, everybody was like, oh, no, not Kyrie. I'm like, yeah, because he is a little bit more important to this thing than some of you guys give credit to. But that was scary. And him being known for injuries that take him out for long stretches of time made it even more like, wow, this is definitely not good. And then not only was it not bad, but he's back at half. I mean, I gotta say that I was surprised at that, because Kyrie Irving, with his injury issues, I would have thought maybe being cautious, but he was the opposite. He came out halftime, ran it out there, said, I'm good, and he got right back in there and played, and a huge a breath off. As you said, LeBron was already out. I expect LeBron probably not to play tonight as well, as they continue to rest him up. But yeah, man, Cavs dodge a bullet. But yeah, I've got to say, that continues in my narrative this year of a different Kyrie Irving than what we've seen here in his early NBA career. He's still got a lot of growth to do. I'm not sitting here putting him in the Hall of Fame or anything. I'm just saying he's been a different Kyrie Irving all the way around this season.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's a good point. And I think too that with LeBron being out, I think that may have prompted him coming back. I get the feeling that had LeBron been playing last night, that Kyrie would have sat out the second half just as a precaution. And no one, I certainly wouldn't have criticized him for that, or even with LeBron out if he'd have sat it out. But you got that feeling that, hey, he understood LeBron's out. This is a fairly big game. It's a high-profile game anyway, and we need one of our leaders out there, another one of our leaders out there, and I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna take the floor, and I don't know that we would have seen that even in the last few years when LeBron wasn't there. I don't know that we would have seen that from Kyrie. So yeah, I think that's a good point, and I think it's a good sign. I mean, it's really, as much as you don't look for benefits coming out of a loss, particularly in such a long season as this. Yesterday really did feel good. I mean, you feel good coming out of that for the Cavs. And yes, they lost, and yes, they were down by a large margin and made it seem closer at the end. But with LeBron, I was happy that LeBron didn't play, honestly. I mean, you're never happy to see him get hurt or to have any kind of injury. Yeah. But I think that the team, first of all, he needed, as you said, for the time off. I mean, he's been playing way too many minutes. And I think everybody knows that, and it's something they may be trying to address. They're sort of half-heartedly trying to fix this. But yeah, for him to have a night off, I think that was important. And I think it was just as important for the rest of the guys to say, okay, let's see what this is like without LeBron. Let's see what we can do without our rainmaker on the floor. And so they got an opportunity to do that, and they did okay. I mean, they did get outplayed, and like you said, they were down by quite a bit, but fought their way back, and they held their own for much of the game. So, and that was good. I think that if there's one thing that this team needs to learn, even with LeBron on the floor, they need to be able to fight for themselves without him. They need to have that mentality, which is something that I think those last two Cavs teams that LeBron was on never really got that. And so when that time came in the playoffs when LeBron wasn't there, even though he was there, everything kind of fell apart. So I think that was a good lesson last night. I think that's good for this team to continue to grow and continue to improve. And even though it was a loss, I think it was overall in the long run. I think you're gonna look back and say, hey, that may be a key night to this season.
Absolutely. You hit on a good hidden point there that perhaps, that shows the growth as a leader of him going, hey, look, we're already down our alpha guy. I can't not come back in. These guys need me, man. That's different than perhaps the mindset in previous years where even the Cavs would pat him on the back and go, hey, shut it down. Don't worry about it. We got to worry about, next week, next month. Don't worry about it, kid. Go shut it down for the night. Whereas tonight he's looking across the locker room and going, oh, man, these guys need – I'm just saying, I like that, and hopefully that is a sign of things. Speaking of LeBron, you know what? I go both ways, and you guys know that I like to be very open about everything, man. I tell you guys the things I don't. You guys know what I feel about LeBron James, but I do want to bring up something in that there while we're talking, which shows that, man, I'll tell you what, I'll go a different direction with him too. And, we complained, at least early on, I was definitely one of the media people that said, hey, man, I really wasn't the biggest fan of the way he was doing his, leadership thing the first couple weeks of the season. A lot of people started criticizing that, and then he changed it, and maybe that was whatever. But you know what? I got to say that it's still better. I don't know if you saw JK, but I posted on our Facebook the video that came out of Lakers practice yesterday. Kobe Bryant walking off the court, slamming the ball, looking over at the general manager and telling him, I'll edit it so that I can say it on the radio, but he basically told him, we come to practice to get better, and there's nobody out here on this court making me better, and he just walked off, and it was it's right there, except he was a little more colorful with the words that he used, but and then you see the stuff with Carmelo Anthony in New York, and that circus that they've got an East Coast and a West Coast circus now. You got the Lakers over there, and you got the Knicks, but those are two signs of bad egotistical leadership gone awry. And I know Kobe, you can say, oh, he's competitive. I don't care. It's still not the way you do that either. I look at those and I go, man, you know what? If whining to the media is as bad as it's going to get, I'll deal with that compared to what we're seeing from some of these quote-unquote leaders in some of these other places. Yeah,
I think you're right. And I think there's still a honeymoon period to some extent. I think for LeBron and Cleveland, and so it's still sort of new. I think that he doesn't, even when he's been frustrated, I think it's this season, I think it still is that there's that sort of new car feeling about this, that you kind of, okay, yeah, you still have that patience. But you're right. I think that there is that sense of maturity that maybe wasn't there before. Not that LeBron ever had any kind of incidents really like what you were referring to there with other guys. But yeah, I like to think that is why the Cavs were able to kind of right their ship so quickly. Or for as bad as things look there for a little while, when they're 5-7, and you're thinking, oh boy, this is going to take all year for them to kind of get this fixed. I like to think that it was sort of that maturity. There's just that little bit of, okay, we know we're in this for the long haul. LeBron himself has been through this before. Let's just take a deep breath and we're going to get there. And they did, fairly quickly. Not to say that they still can't improve. Obviously they can, but I certainly feel better about them now than I did 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I think that may be a big reason why.
Absolutely. One thing we are noticing early on is the difference, as we all know, but you're starting to see it play out on the court, the difference between the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference, because the Cavs are obviously much more successful. They have yet to really step up against a big Western Conference challenger just yet. They're close, they're there, but you can see the difference, and that's where a lot of people that don't get all caught up in the parade before the season started go, that's what they have to get to, not just being able to beat Chicago and Toronto and these teams. But even if you get through that, that side of the bracket is a lot different than the other side of the bracket, because that Oklahoma City team, because of that start that they had, they'll be lucky to be one of the bottom seeds. They're not going to get home court in the West, so that'll show you how we all know how tough the Western Conference is, but the Cavs are seeing that in their first couple of games against the top teams over there, that they're kind of measuring where they're at against that side, because to me, the top 2 or 3 teams in the league are all